molecule, and that water molecule is split into oxygen, hydrogen, and electrons. And the electrons are fed into the photosystem. Now notice this photosystem is Roman numeral 2, and this photosystem is Roman numeral 1. And you might say, well, that's backwards because we're starting over here. Why isn't this one photosystem Roman numeral 1? Well, they're basically named upon when they believe, what scientists believe was the first photosystem to exist. And they believe that it was photosystem 1 that was the first photosystem in existence. So let's get back to our steps. Just to review, on step 1, the energy from sunlight is harnessed or captured or used, let's say, to excite electrons out of photosystem 2. And in step 2, those electrons are replenished back to photosystem 2 by photolysing, or the splitting of water, into hydrogen, oxygen, and electrons. In step 3, the electrons are entering an electron carrier complex of molecules. So those electrons, in essence, are passed from one molecule to the next within the thylakoid membrane. And as they are passed, the energy lost from the electrons. So kind of notice the steps are getting lower. So the energy is being lost from the electrons, but it's not lost and wasted. It's as the energy is being lost from the electrons, it is used to move hydrogen ions. So you're going to start forming a hydrogen ion gradient inside this very small thylakoid compartment. So notice we have some hydrogens that have been contributed from the splitting of water, and now we have hydrogens that have been contributed from step 4. And we'll see what and how important those hydrogen ions are in a minute. So now the electrons are going to be excited again, so they need another photosystem. So this is where photosystem 1 comes in, and photosystem 1 is similar in structure to photosystem 2 in that it has pigmented molecules. Those pigmented molecules are going to excite the electrons that they've just received. So in step 5, the light energy excites the electrons from photosystem 1 that are continually being replaced from the previous step. Those electrons that are excited will then be passed in step 6 through another series of electron carrier molecules. And as those electrons are passed, they will combine with NADP plus and H plus, forming NADPH. So the electrons bond the NADP plus with the H plus. And basically NADPH is a electron carrier molecule that will be used in the light independent reactions. Now remember these hydrogen ions that we've built up here in the thylakoid compartment. They will be used by a complex called ATP synthase. And that complex uses the energy built up in the hydrogen ion gradient to form ATP from ADP in inorganic phosphate. So our end result of the light-dependent reactions are the production of NADPH and ATP that will then be used by the enzymes in the stroma to take the carbon from carbon dioxide and form glucose. Here's a kind of a little different view of the first few steps of the light-dependent reactions. We can see here this was photosystem 2, and the P680 basically means that the average wavelength of light that the pigment molecules in this photosystem absorb is 680 nanometers, and in photosystem 1, P700, it's 700 nanometers. Notice that as the electrons are fed into the photosystem, originally, of course, over here from water, they're excited. So notice this arrow going up is showing that the pigmented molecules in each photosystem have the ability to excite those electrons. And as those once those electrons are excited, they are then passed down a series of electron carrier molecules. And as they're passed down, they lose energy. And of course, we saw previously that that first set is then re-excited. And then as they're passed, they go to a final electron acceptor, which is NADPH. Recall that these electrons, as they're passed and lose energy, their energy will be used to pump hydrogen ions into the thylakoid compartment, whose hydrogen ion gradient will then be used by ATP synthase to form ATP. So the second half of photosynthesis is the light-independent reaction. And basically it's a series of reactions that occur in a cyclic pathway. And we can break that cyclic pathway down into a few steps. The first thing that we have to understand is that the Calvin-Benson cycle has to turn 6 times for us to be able to have enough carbon infused in the cycle to form one glucose molecule. Remember, a cycle, we have to regenerate what we started with. So we can't just combine one carbon from carbon dioxide with our 5-carbon RUBP molecule and get one sugar. That's 6 carbon. I mean, we could, but then we wouldn't have anything left to continue the process. So notice we have 6 RUBP molecules combining with 6 CO2 molecules. The black dots represent the carbon atoms. So we have a total of 30 carbon atoms here, represented with our 6 5-carbon RUBPs. And up here we have a total of 6 carbons represented in our 6 CO2s. We combine those 5 plus 1 times 6, and that gives us a total of 12 molecules called PGA, each molecule containing 3 carbons. So if we were to count our carbons, we'd have a total of 30 from here, 6 from here, that would be 36, and 12 times 3 is 36. Those 12 PGA are then just slightly rearranged. ATP energy is added to them, as well as NADPH, and ATP and NADPH came from the light-dependent reactions. Notice we've kept our 3-carbon compounds, so we still have 12 of them. Of those 12, 10 of them are going to stay in the cycle. 2 of them are going to leave the cycle and form one 6-carbon glucose molecule. So 2 3-carbon molecules add up to one 6-carbon molecule. That means we're left with 10 3-carbon molecules. Those 10 3-carbon molecules will then have energy contributed to them, and their atoms will be slightly rearranged so that we end up back with our RUBP, each RUBP being 5 carbons. So if we had 10 3-carbon molecules here, that's a total of 30 carbons. And we have 6 5-carbon molecules here, we still have 30 carbons. So we have not lost any carbon atoms in the process. So just to summarize, it takes 6 carbon dioxide molecules, 12 plus 6 ATP molecules, 12 NADPH molecules to form one 6-carbon compound called glucose. That's the end of our presentation over Chapter 6 on photosynthesis. Please join in for the next chapter in week 3, which would be Chapter 7.